Told the world to take a hike and to stop interfering with its nuclear program. And next door, Iraq is caught in a deadly whirlwind of Shia versus Sunni violence. I spoke to Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist Seymour Hersh just a short time ago. He's in Cairo. He has a story coming out in the new issue of the New Yorker magazine about how the Pentagon is right now in the midst of intensive planning for a bombing campaign against Iran. And joining us now from Cairo, Sy Hersh, the article entitled The Redirection. Sy, let me read one line from it. You write, the Iran Planning Group has been handed a new assignment to identify targets in Iran that may be involved in supplying or aiding militants in Iraq. Previously, the focus had been on the destruction of Iran's nuclear facilities and possible regime change. Based on all your reporting, how far along are U.S. military plans for a war with Iran?
Well, of course, they're very far along. They've been studying this forever. They're constantly redesigning, retooling. But right now, as I wrote, it's pretty obvious what's going on. In the last month or so, the president has been talking more and more about cross-border attacks and more about Iranian interference and threatening American lives. So it's not surprising they would fine-tune the targeting to go after suspected training sites, etc., across the border and inside Iran. That's just normal, I think.
And you write that already some special operations forces, some U.S. intelligence forces have crossed the line and have gone into Iran. Is that right?
Oh, yes. That's been happening for months. There's been a lot of very aggressive cross-border activity. It's more than just casual. There's been a lot of jumping over the border, chasing bad guys or people we think are bad guys. That's been going on quite a bit.
Here's what another line you write about division within the Bush administration over these plans. You say this, the former senior intelligence official said that the current contingency plans allow for an attack order this spring. He added, however, that senior officers and the Joint Chiefs were counting on the White House's not being foolish enough to do this in the face of Iraq and the problems it would give the Republicans in 2008. Talk a little bit about the divisions you see happening within the administration.
Well, I don't think there's any question, but much of the senior military leadership do not think it's a wise thing to do. Of course, if the president orders it, it'll happen. But they are very skeptical. For example, I was told, I hinted at it in the article, that we could have a carrier in trouble in the Straits of Hormuz. There's very little room to maneuver. And a carrier, when it's recovering planes that are, landing after attacking and trying to recover the planes, their motions, their movements are predictable. They have to have a wind in a certain direction. They can be vulnerable to attack. Iran has hundreds of PT boats they can load up and make them more or less suicide boats. So the Navy is extremely worried about that possibility. We can have some serious damage to our fleet. And also, what's Iran going to do in response? I will tell you also that there's a lot of evidence, I didn't get into this that much into the piece, that the Iranians are digging more holes, moving their leadership into underground bunkers in other places besides Tehran in case of a bombing. They're anticipating the worst.
The Pentagon on Friday released a statement even before your article was released saying this: the United States is not planning to go to war with Iran. To suggest anything to the contrary is simply wrong, misleading, and mischievous. The United States has been very clear with respect to its concerns regarding specific Iranian government activities. The President has repeatedly stated publicly that this country is going to work with allies in the region to address those concerns through diplomatic efforts. And this is what the new Defense Secretary Robert Gates said on February 15th. Listen to this.
We are not, for the umpteenth time, we are not looking for an excuse to go to war with Iran. We are not planning a war with Iran.
All right, what do you say?
Well, I guess Mr. Cheney, the Vice President, did not get that message because the other day in Australia, he once again publicly renewed the fact that all options are on the table and pretty much made another strong threat against the Iranians. It's very possible, Wolf, that some of this is simply games being played by the administration that is simply designed to increase the political pressure on Iran, to jack it up, and a lot of this may be agitprop propaganda. But inside the military, they are planning very seriously, at the President's request, to attack Iran. And as I wrote in the article, one of the assignments they've been given, contingency assignments, there's no operational order, no order to hit anything, but one of the contingency assignments would enable the President to, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, say, I want to hit, and within 24 hours, targets would be struck, a 24-hour package.
You also talk about Israeli intelligence and the information they're collecting and providing to the United States. You speak about this. Intelligence which came from Israeli agents operating in Iran includes a claim that Iran has developed a 3-stage solid-fueled intercontinental missile capable of delivering several small warheads, each with limited accuracy inside Europe. The validity of this human intelligence is still being debated. What's more likely, in your estimate, given the reporting you've done in the region here in Washington, an Israeli strike against Iranian nuclear facilities or a U.S. strike against Iranian nuclear facilities?
Look, of course, nobody knows, but what the answer to that question is, I with no assurances, but I can tell you, from what I know, and I do have some access, obviously, to information. There's no thought in this administration to letting Israel do it. It's going to, if Israel feels it has to do it, we will do it, because that's the last thing they want. Israel, of course, is capable of firing some cruise missiles from the Indian Ocean, but we are certainly just as capable of doing that and much more. So I think if it goes and one doesn't know, it's going to, I've been writing the same story for a year. Sort of like I would call up my friends and say, it's Chicken Little, the sky is falling in the last year. And now, obviously, it seems to be much more serious. It's much more intent. My own instinct is, Wolf, that this president is not going to leave office without doing something about Iran. And he could always negotiate. It's always on the table. And he keeps on refusing to negotiate. He keeps on saying he will not. And he keeps on talking tough. And maybe we just have to really listen to what he's saying. And I don't know what can stop him because he is president.
Near the end of your article, you have this explosive.
We are leaders. We are